Welcome to part 2 of this video demo of Johnny, which is the GUI front end for John the Ripper, one of the password cracking tools included with Kali 2020. To be most specific, John the Ripper is, and the GUI front end, Johnny, is not, but of course you've got apt-get, so you can install it. In the previous video, I created some bogus user accounts, added some passwords to them, also created a completely bogus password file using the OpenSSL command to generate a password hash of a random value, like, for example, password1, and then I used Johnny to crack that. What we're going to do now is use the unshadow command to fuse, say, the shadow file and the password file, run them together, and then throw Johnny at those to see if I can recover real passwords. So let's get going. Okay, so this is the tail end of my Etsy password file. Now I did tail to get I did it like this because I was looking for my user accounts. Your primary user account will be created somewhere in the middle of all your system accounts, and any new users you add will be added at the end of that. Notice that I've got my primary user account has a user ID and a group ID of 1,000, and these 3 new users that I created have user IDs in the same range: 1001, 1002, 1003, etc. What I'm going to do now is use the unshadow command to fuse, to bind the information that's in my Etsy password file and what's in my Etsy shadow file. Now, it's really important to note how Linux handles passwords. Literally anyone can look at Etsy, well, most literally anyone can look at Etsy password. And let me prove that to you right quick. See? Etsy password is 3K. It is readable by literally everyone, though only root can write to it. That's why you have to do things like the password command and the add user command, either as root or as someone with pseudo privilege. Now let's do this same thing to the Etsy shadow file. Notice that only root and the members of the root group can see the Etsy shadow file. So let's take a look at that by doing sudo cat Etsy shadow. Okay, so this is my Etsy shadow file. Notice that you've got a whole bunch of passwords here with not a whole lot in them. In fact, let me do it this way. Let me grep for the star. Grep. Let me see if I can literally grep for star. See, okay, that's what I meant to do. So these are bogus accounts. The star indicates that there's really no password for these. This is why some of these accounts should be locked out. Let's go back to okay, and let's invert that. -I. Okay, -v. So okay, so the -v option will give me passwords. So this option will show me everything that doesn't have an empty password. So there is a password for the root account. There's a password for some of these other accounts. Notice this big, long, ugly gibberish that's on my account and the Phoenix and Toast and Taffy accounts. These are hashes of actual passwords. Let's do the cat. Let's tail out password again. No, what we're going to do here with the Etsy unshadow command is collate this. So this X you see here in these passwords, that's a placeholder for the value that's actually in Etsy shadow. So what we're going to do is we're going to unshadow these. So sudo unshadow. Actually, you know what? Let's do man unshadow first. Okay, So it will combine the password and shadow files. On some Linux system, on some older Unix systems, these two files may actually be one and the same. Um, unshadow is part of your John the Ripper package, and so this what it does here is like I said, put them back together so the John the Ripper can use them. This one of the reasons you want these two files separate from each other is you may want people to be able to see Etsy password, but you want to really, really, really protect Etsy shadow. Now, if someone can manage to exfiltrate, that is to steal, to remove data from the system sneakily, whether they unshadow these two files and then exfiltrate them, or exfiltrate the one and then the other and then unshadow someplace else, if they can do that, they can use a tool like Hydra or John the Ripper to completely break your security. So that's why it's so important to protect these files. I honestly would have understood a little bit if it had turned out that the shadow file could only be read by root, like as in a mode block of 600, say read-write access for root, and then no access whatsoever for anybody else. So what we're going to do, so there's that. So we're going to do sudo unshadow Etsy password Etsy shadow, and we're going to put this in I'm just going to call it unshadow file, unshadow.file. Boom. So now it is really important when you do this redirection, make sure the target is in a directory that you can write to. Now, and that may mean you can't put it in the /root directory unless you're doing this as the root user. Now, if you do all this as the root user, it's fine. If you have to use sudo to invoke unshadow, notice that the sudo command applies to this. The sudo does not apply to the redirection. So you may use unshadow to reach in, grab those files, combine them, but not be able to redirect the output stream of that into another file, particularly if you don't own the directory. Actually, let's look at what this would look like without that redirection. So it looks like this. So as you can see, I've got the hash gibberish of my passwords integrated into what would otherwise be the structure of my password file. So now that I've gotten this going, I can use Johnny, the front end for John the Ripper, to try to break these passwords. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start Johnny again. Okay, Johnny, good. And I'm going to open a password file, and what I'm going to do is the unshadow file, open. And I'm going to start a new attack. And it's going to take some time. Because it's trying to figure out it's going to do some things like figure out what password format to use and so forth. Now let me pause this. Okay, so Johnny has been working on this for about the last 8 minutes. I can actually see my statistics here. 8 minutes, yeah. It has cracked one of my 4 passwords, the simple one, and it is still thinking about the other ones. I think I used the same password for a couple of these, so it should be able to figure out a couple of these other ones fairly quickly. Actually, you know what? No, I didn't. I used a different password for the Toast account and a still different one for the Taffy account. And I think the Taffy account is the one that I used anti-disestablishmentarianism for it. But as I said, this is going to take a while. So it is 2:15. I'm going to pause again and pop in again when we've got some results. Okay, so it got another one. Um, it looked at, looking at my statistics, it took the best part of 10 minutes, 10, almost 15 minutes to go from that really easy one, password one, to the password on the Toast account, which is short, which is a nonsense word, not in the dictionary, but relatively short and not at all complex. I'm honestly expecting it's going to take a good deal longer for it to crack the other two. I'm not actually going to show you the password it detects for my account, but I will. We will watch to see how long it takes to crack anti-disestablishmentarianism. Now, it is a dictionary word. One would expect it to go a little faster, but if we look at our console log, it is flipped from using its password list to incremental ASCII. So maybe with a better dictionary, this would go faster. So I'm going to pause this again and we'll see how much longer it takes. So as of this moment, it has been working on this problem for 18.5 minutes, and I will check back in again once it cracks another password. Okay, so Johnny has been thinking about my third password for an hour at least. And I'm getting just a little bit impatient. So what I'm going to try to do now is use the top command. If I can find my, okay, so what I want to do here, I can use top. I'm actually going to invoke this with sudo privilege so I can do what needs doing. Sudo top. Now, what I'm going to try to do, notice that my top process right here has a priority of 39 and a nice value of 19. What I want to try to do is bring my priority down even farther, which is to say, make it more important. I want to give this thing more processor cycles, so I don't have to sit here all day waiting for it to crack passwords I already know. So I'm going to do sudo top, boom, and run this as root, and then I'm going to use the R command to renice. Now the value I want to do, yeah, so it just so happens that the thing I want to renice is right at the top. But I could do 2059 just to be sure. So I'm going to renice that. I'm going to give it a value, a renice value of -10. Now, as you're adjusting your nice values, you can crank it down. A -20 will give it a priority closer to 0, or a +19 will give it a value closer to 127 for lowest. So and actually I'm going to say this is negative. Boom. Now, okay, that might have been too might have been too much. That would be sort of kind of how this would work with renice. Okay, that's a little nuts. Let's give it a value of 10. So we're actually setting the priority value directly. So it is going to have a priority of 30, a nice value of 10. I believe its value before was 39, and its nice value was 19. So I've successfully promoted this process. Now, I'm going to pause this because I'm about to run out of time. Now, the other way I could have found this without seeing what kind of load it was putting on the system or dynamically updating process priorities, I could have just used the PS command. PSAUX is very useful. Then grep for what you're looking for. Notice this also shows me the GUI. The thing I actually reniced was the John the Ripper program that the Johnny GUI kicked off. So what I really reniced was not my GUI, but the underlying password cracking tool. Thanks, and we'll continue this in part 3.